So, this is a late night video. I've just been reading an article about politics in the UK, and there's open talk of replacing Starmer as Prime Minister. He's only been in the job for about 17 months. It's quite extraordinary. There's a poll that shows him to be the most unpopular Prime Minister since polling began. No, I don't dislike him personally. This isn't personal. Yeah, in some ways, I quite like him. He loves music. It's just he's in the wrong job. You know, he was probably very good as a lawyer, yeah, but he doesn't know how to lead. Maybe that's related to his sun sign. We don't know his birth time, but his sun in Virgo. They're good servants. He'd have probably made a good Home Secretary or something like that, but he doesn't bring people with him. Anyway, I'm more interested in the UK chart from this point of view, and Saturn and Neptune. They're going backwards at the moment. They've gone backwards into Pisces. They're both going to turn round in early December and start to move forwards. And they're going to make their first exact conjunction early next year. So that point at which they start to move forward, that's when everything can start to change. And the conjunction of Saturn and Uranus, so Saturn and Neptune, is going to be at the beginning of Aries. Now, the UK ascendant is in early Libra, with Uranus above it. Yeah, we've got Uranus rising in Libra, the UK. That's why we're always the odd one out in Europe. Yeah, we've got Uranus rising. We don't quite fit. Yeah, we want our freedom. Yeah, Uranus, if you like, is the English channel that makes us always ambivalent about Europe. Anyway, this isn't about Europe. It's at about 6 degrees, the ascendant. So the descendant, the other angle, is 6 degrees Aries, and the conjunction's going to be at about 1 or 2 degrees Aries. That's close enough. The transit has begun. It's properly in the same sign now. They already did enter that sign, but they didn't actually conjoin, Saturn and Neptune. This time conjoin. It's very powerful when Saturn and Neptune, or Saturn and Pluto, come together. They're about the most powerful transits that you can find in terms of manifesting. And so there's the budget at the end of this month, and then Saturn and Neptune start to move forward at the beginning of December. That's when Starmer could go. We're already in a crisis. Yeah, we've been in a swamp. Neptune is a transformer, and often you go into a swamp, yeah, and you sort of get dissolved, and then eventually you're reborn. You're re-ensouled. It's like in The Tempest. Yeah, that guy who drowns at sea. Is it Miranda's father? Whatever. Of his bones are coral made. Yeah, those are pearls that were his eyes. Yeah, it changes you. It gives you a new soul. So that's what's happening to us in England at the moment. We're being given a new soul. But birth is a difficult process. It's an ordeal. It's an initiation. And we all have it. It's an initiation for the mother, and it's certainly an initiation for the baby. Sometimes it's really easy. Sometimes it's really tough. Life is tough. Life is difficult. But out of that, something new can be born. So that's what's happening. That's what's to remember at the moment. Yeah, England is having a new soul. We're trying to give birth to it. And it's long and it's slow and it's painful. And we've just been in a swamp, in a way, for years. The Tory party went through crisis after crisis and then crashed. Labour is now starting to do the same. It's gone from this swamp and it is now definitely in crisis because they're talking about replacing Keir Starmer. And I think that will start to happen seriously after the budget, and as Saturn and Neptune both start to move forward. And whoever does replace him, well, there's going to be the council elections next May. And Labour is likely to get an absolute drumming there. And that will then put that leadership into crisis. And it's like the country can take only so much crisis. And I think there has to be a general election, within the next year or two. It won't just be political crisis. Yeah, there's economic crisis. We are slowly entering a doom loop where we're having to fill the hole in the finances by taxing people more and more. Well, people don't like that. It makes the economy worse in many ways. You don't necessarily raise more taxes by putting them up because you can dampen the economy. It's not straightforward. Economic crisis, cultural crisis, that mass protest of like 1 million people in London saying there's too many immigrants. Please stop it. Please slow it all down. Can we have some sanity? Yeah. There's crisis on all these three levels. Just as we're coming up to the first Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which is going to be early next year. And so we've moved, I think we're now moving from swamp into crisis, and we're going to stay in crisis until there's a general election. Probably be within the next 2 years, maybe even next year. There's only so much one can take. And then there'll be a chance for that new soul to be born. So that's the emphasis I want to give, because things are quite dispiriting at the moment. I'm trying not to make this party political. I'm certainly not making it personal to Starmer. I just think he's in the wrong job. That's just objective. I think anyone can see that. So yeah, and then slowly, but even birth can be a slow thing. You have to make changes. Yeah, for the economy to improve, you have to make cuts. That's painful. You often have to have recession first. There's pain all round to come. You go through the wilderness. That's the process of change, of personal change and of collective change. That's why the Jews, when they left Egypt, they spent 40 years in the wilderness before they arrived in the promised land. I mean, there's no historical evidence that they were slaves in Egypt, but that's the mythology that they have. The wilderness. But there is a psycho-spiritual truth in that you go through a wilderness, and we are about to go through the wilderness where we let go of the old. It really only can last. I mean, I dread to think that it could last 2 years, but it might be 2 years. And then when we change our minds about that, then comes the time when we make changes, and that has its own form of pain. But there is a rebirth down the line. There is something new down the line, in which we'll be, in a way, we'll have a new soul. We'll be more at ease with ourselves. Yeah? There may well be parties you don't approve of or don't agree with get elected. That's just the way it is. But you have to take a long perspective with that. Yeah, like if you take a long perspective with Thatcher, which, like, when she left, the economy was booming. Yeah, when she started, we were the sick man of Europe. So you have to take a longer perspective with these things. Okay, so there you go. Watch out for Saturn and Neptune at the beginning of December and what happens here politically. And remember also, there's a new soul waiting to be born some years down the line. Okay.